Good morning. Want to talk to you about PPP loan forgiveness real quick. And there's just so many things changing relative to the PPP loan forgiveness. They have this new application that came out last Friday, I think it did. And it's going to be complicated. And there's continuing to be like these rules that are changing relative to the loan forgiveness. And so this is not something that's just going to be like super easy just to get forgiven. And there's like a part of me that I'm trying to educate as much as possible on this, let you know what I know. Not that I know everything, but I am studying this quite a bit. Our team is studying this quite a bit. We're helping existing clients with this loan forgiveness. We've helped people with these loans, but the forgiveness part is a critical part of it. And you've got to have all the proper documentation. You have to have all the proper forms filled out, and you might want somebody to help you with that. Or you can at least just listen in, and I want to continue to educate you and execute on a daily basis some type of information that's going to help you with your business during this time. We have our private Facebook group, the Fast Track Infusion. If you go to www.fasttrackinfusion.com, you can sign up for that private Facebook group. I'm dropping templates in there. I'm dropping news articles in there. We are staying up to date together on a regular basis, and I go live in there for a little bit more advanced question and answer sessions. What's up, CT? What's up, Doug McCloy, Mark Shackelford? We're going live in there 3 days a week now. Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays is what I'm committed to discuss those things. And we have a number of changes that have just happened. And one of those changes is this forgiveness. This forgiveness is might change with this 8-week period. And this is something that I want to read to you. It's a draft of the PPP proposal. So what we're finding is that a lot of small business owners, they're not able to spend this money within 8 weeks. There's some proposals for this vote next week that the House is going to vote on. There's some proposals that are saying that if they're going to allow 24 weeks. There's also a lot of business owners that say, hey, I don't have people that are coming back to work, so how in the world am I going to pay this out to employees that don't want to come back because they want to stay on unemployment because they're making so much money not being employed? I mean, this is the type of complicated situations that business owners are coming across. So this legislation that they're voting on, here's a little bit of a summary on it. Thanks, Doug. I appreciate that, man. You have gotten a lot of extra money here lately. It's been great, hasn't it? I mean, this is fantastic. This stuff does work, but you've got to go about it the right way. And some people have been able to do this on their own. I mean, it is possible to do this on your own, just like it's possible to do your taxes on your own. But I talked to a guy who makes $800,000 a year, and he was doing his taxes on his own. We're going to save him at least $30,000 each year. 2 years, 60 grand. Just because he was doing it on his own, yeah. But what are you missing out on when you're doing it on your own? Probably missing some money. So the legislation, it's going to allow for forgiveness for expenses beyond an 8-week period. The 8-week timeline is not working for business owners. It needs to provide more time for business owners to spend this money the correct way. So part of the legislation is they want employers to be able to keep their employees on payroll, not furlough them without pay or terminate them entirely. I mean, part of the rules of the forgiveness as they stand right now is that you have to bring all your employees back and get to your regular employment level. But now this vote that they're having next week on this new legislation to adjust this would cause you to adjust things. So what do you do as a business owner right now? What is the thing to do? Stay up to date with the news and don't make decisions just based off the current rules. Make decisions based off of how you need to run your business effectively. Don't change the way you're running your business just because of these rules. Eventually, I feel like that they're going to get this right. But right now, if you are spending money just for the sake of spending money so it doesn't get forgiven, I don't believe that's a good business practice. Now, it's scary to take that risk to maybe not spend it all in that 8-week period. But I think for most people, they're still within their 8-week period. And the government knows, the House knows when they are voting on this, they know that some people are probably coming up on that in the next, 3 or 4 weeks probably, of when people have to be submitting this to their banks in order to get it forgiven, because that's truly where you are submitting it, is you're giving this to your bank in order to get this forgiven. You've got 60 days after the 8-week period, which it looks like that's going to change. The other part of this legislation that's going to change is it's going to eliminate restrictions on non-payroll expenses. Remember, part of the rules as they stand right now is that you have to spend 75% of the money on payroll. In order for a business to survive, there's so many other aspects of there's so many other expenses that businesses have to spend money on in order to survive during this time. It's not just the employees. No offense, employees, but it's not just about you. There's other fixed costs that businesses have to pay for. So they're talking about changing that, not to just retain employees, but it's also going to extend the opportunity for employers to use this money for non-payroll needs. So the 75% rule might go away. It's going to eliminate restrictions that limit loan terms to 2 years. According to the American Hotel and Lodging Association, full recovery for the industry from September 11th in 2008, there's a lot longer time to recover. So it would take many businesses more than 2 years to achieve sufficient revenue to back the loan. So what they're saying is right now, the way the rules are is if you don't get the loan forgiven, then you have to pay it back within 2 years. What they're proposing in this new legislation is that it's going to be a longer term loan, which I agree with this too. This is going to take business owners a long time to recover from. This is going to take at least till the end of the year, even to remotely get your revenues back to where they were before, much less pay for the additional debt that you have to go through and go into in this time in order for your business to keep going. So there's parts of this legislation, and what we're talking about here is there's legislation that's being proposed to the House next week to change the terms of the PPP loan forgiveness. Here's the other one. Ensure full access to payroll tax deferment for businesses that take PPP loans. So the current rules right now say if you took the PPP money, that you could not do the payroll tax deferment. I hate this rule. I was very disappointed that this was the case, because the thing is that you should be deferring your payroll taxes right now. That's a big number for a lot of business owners and would help tremendously with cash flow. Even if you had to pay it back over the next 2 years, that is going to be a change in this legislation if they vote it. If we are paying a lot of staff to clean and do busy work, do you suggest gambling that this gets changed and don't waste any of the money right now? I get it, Nathan. You and I were talking about this, and I was suggesting that you at least get your employees back so that you make sure it's forgiven. That was 2 weeks ago when we talked about that, right? When you got the money. Now they're proposing this legislation. I mean, this is risk and reward, right? So how much do you gamble? Me as a business owner, I would gamble a little bit. I think they have to change this because it doesn't make economic sense. They gave you a loan for 2.5 months of payroll, right? They gave you a loan for 2.5 months of payroll, but your revenues are still declined. They're still zero. If you were a non-essential business, you haven't had any revenue in the last 2 months. So you've got, or last 3 months probably, but during this period of what they're talking about, you haven't had revenue for the last 2 months. So you've got other fixed costs that are a part of your business that you have to pay for. The government has to understand this. Now they make up stupid rules. They make up stupid rules that don't make sense. That's in the tax code every single year, but you've got to have somebody who knows how to navigate this in order to be able to advise on it. So my advice to you, Nathan, would be, I don't know. I think that you wait till next week. Maybe keep them employed through next week to see if the House votes on this. If the House passes this, I think this is something that definitely could go through the Senate, because this is another part of this that is extremely important to business owners to get this money forgiven. Now, the banks don't want it forgiven. They want to be able to collect interest on this money, but they're going to be applying these rules as they are written. I don't think there's going to be a ton of gray area, but there are some tips and tricks that you can use in order to get this money forgiven. That if for some reason they did not pass this legislation that we know about, that we know how to use these tips and tricks in order to help you navigate this forgiveness. But if they change it, then those tips and tricks will change. If they change the rules. So that's ensuring the payroll tax deferment. The other thing is extending the rehiring deadline to offset the effect of enhanced unemployment insurance. Right now, as the rule states, you have to rehire to your full employment, whatever your employment was from February 15th to April 26th, you've got to rehire by June 30th, all of those people to get back to full employment to get the forgiveness, because that discounts your forgiveness. Now, this is not all or nothing on the forgiveness. You can get a portion of this forgiven, but still you would like to get it all forgiven if you can and spend it in the time frame that is required. That's another part of this legislation that's changing, is they're thinking about extending that deadline, that rehiring deadline, out to June 30th. So there's still a lot of decisions that have to be made, but I would be sticking to answer your question even more, Nathan, I think that you need to be sticking to what allows you to run your business effectively right now. I would not be focused on the forgiveness aspect, although it is important, but I wouldn't be running my business just to fit within these rules right now, because it appears that the rules will change. I can't guarantee that. I can't guarantee that the rules will change, but look at what has happened over the past 2.5 months. The EIDL rules have changed. The EIDL money that was provided has changed. The PPP application changed 3 times before people even started, and even after people started applying. The application for the forgiveness of the PPP loan has changed. So I can only bet on the fact that something is going to change, and my bet also would be that it is going to change for the advantage of the business owner, because right now what they're doing is they're strangling the economy. The government is providing loans. They are providing resources. There's going to be tons of resources. And if you get connected with the right banker, if you get connected with the right person, and I'm going to say, yes, we have these connections, you're going to continue to get funding throughout the rest of the year through the different programs that are offered, because most are not going to know about these. They're not going to know exactly how to go out after it. You've got the Main Street Lending Fund. That's something that just started. There's going to be opportunity there in the future, but you've got to work with the right people. If it's anything like the virus recommendations, it will change. Yeah, exactly, Doug McCloy. It's going to change no matter what. So that's all a part. It's just like the tax code. Each year, everything changes. So I recommend you staying up to date with this stuff. I recommend you at least join our group so that you stay up to date on those changes. Continue to watch live. I'm going to be going live, trying to go live on a daily basis in order to provide you with more education, not just on this, but also other topics that are going to be affecting you during this time, because this is a time in which you can take advantage of as many tax breaks as you possibly can, and these opportunities to get more money for your business to help your business survive. But this is really interesting that this came about yesterday, with the fact that Pelosi is recommending that we have changes to this PPP proposal on the back end for the forgiveness part, because they see that business owners cannot just pay employees for the sake of paying employees. That doesn't make business sense. That was the original intent of the PPP loan, was to get the money into the hands of employees to keep the economy going. But the thing is that the economy really isn't going because people are not spending money the way they normally would have spent it. And they're on unemployment, so why in the world are they going to come back? They're going to come back for less money? That doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense for that employee economically. So we have this really big question right now of what is the right thing to do for business owners. And I think right now, with as many changes, if you've got that money, use the money on what you need to use it on to run your business. Get with a professional to make sure that you are going to get this money forgiven under the current rules. as the rules are changing, your strategy is going to be changing too. This is something that you got to be mindful of on a weekly basis moving forward. Because too, if you are monitoring it on a weekly basis moving forward, the beauty of accounting is anything can be changed within 30 days. Lots of modifications can be made, and they can be adjusted on the forms that you're going to have to be submitting for the documentation for the forgiveness. So based off these rules, we change the documentation, we change the facts and circumstances relative to that in order to advocate for you to get that loan forgiven. Hope that gives you some up-to-date information, and I hope you have a good day. Thanks for tuning in.